about 7 or 8 years out from teaching and research, and I was in a consulting company in Thailand, Panya Consultant, some of you might know. So a teaching, research and consulting experience of about 25 years or so. That's in brief. I have been with AIT since 99, in fact, for about 12 years now, and doing mainly research and teaching related to water resource engineering and management. By training, I am an engineer, but a lot of changes has taken place over the last 25 years or so. With this, let me start with what we would like to say something about food security. We would like to challenge ourselves that whether we have enough water, enough land and human capacity, because coming from the capacity building organization like research and teaching institution, I would like to emphasize more on capacity development, needs of capacity development. In fact, tomorrow we have a meeting in Sri Lanka, so I am flying tonight to Sri Lanka to discuss about very similar topic, capacity needs in changing environment for water management. So let me ask you some questions at the beginning that do we have enough water and land for our growing population to meet the demand? And simply answer would be that we do not have enough land and water unless we change the way we think, unless we change the water use have to be increased in agriculture, productivity has to be increased in the agriculture. The situation will worsen, situation will become more worse if we continue the way we are doing. I'll give you some data and some facts and figures. Before that, let me define what is water security. Previous speaker also spoke about water security, but let me clarify the point of water security, food security is that it should be available, accessible, insufficient and safe and nutritious food to meet our dietary requirements, our preferences. So food security is much more than having only food. That is what I would like to convey the message to. Since most of us here are trained as an irrigation engineer, so I try to develop this one slide which says that just imagine a canal, irrigation canal of 10 meter deep, 100 meter wide, and we would need about 7.1 million kilometer long canal, which is equal to going around the whole globe 180 times to feed today's population of 6.5 billion. Now add about 2 to 3 billion people which are expected by 2050. Then we would need another 5 million kilometer of canal of same size to irrigate and produce that much of food which is required for. Okay, with this background, my presentation, as I said, I will be a bit faster because of the time. I heard that you have afternoon session starting at 1:15 or so I'll try to be faster. I have divided this presentation into 3 major groups. One is on issues, and second one giving 2 case studies related to climate change and rice production in Thailand. Another case study on biofuel production and its impact on the hydrology, and some reflections towards the end. I think by now we know that the links between these 3, the energy, food and water, but not much have been done, not much has been done in order to address these in toto, in whole. What we need is, the point here is that most of the time in the past, we have worked only on two aspects, either water and food, or food and energy, or food and energy and water. But how do we really bring these three together, and why there is a need? I'll try to bring this up during my few slides. Water security or availability of water, it connects all your requirements with respect to food, fiber, fuel, urbanization, migration, climate change, economic growth. So some of these facts and figures, I start with Dr. Mandela, Nelson Mandela. He says that when he was president, it was said in 2002 that he realized the importance of water in terms of centrality of water in the social, political, and economic affairs of the country and continent as a world whole. Now, IWRM is a process by which we can highlight this interdependency of social, economic, natural systems. And that's why I'll try to see how do we really link water, energy, and food nexus and link it with IWRM. That's the way I would like to go about it. I'll try to give some global facts and figures, then go to more towards Asia and then to Thailand, wherever possible. And this is a slide which shows that there are physical water scarcity and there are economical water scarcity. There are places where, just to take an example of India, where we have both physical and economic scarcity of water. Population is going to grow, as everyone knows, that we will be about 9 billion people by 2050. And this slide clearly shows that this increase is going to happen only in Asia and Africa, mainly developing countries where this growth is going to take place. The developed world, the population is going to be more or less constant. And another important factor is that we have increased our water withdrawals at a much faster rate than what our population has grown up. And that also links to that how the economic growth and water use is highly correlated with more or less a straight line, where the water withdrawal as a function of per capita income at a global level is shown here, which clearly indicates that as the economic growth takes place, the water use is going to go up. Urbanization, again, I don't need to emphasize, but just to say one important aspect is that now the urban population is more than the rural population. Urbanization, we have crossed this limit. We will be 60% across the globe, about 55% in Asia, the people will be living, and about 17 out of 24 big cities, mega cities, will be in developing countries. Again, with respect to water use, the global demand for irrigation for domestic uses and industries is going up, again known to most of us here. But important point here is the gray area, which shows the difference between the water which is withdrawn and water which is actually consumed. There is a large gap between these two, and there is a huge scope to reduce this gray area in these curves. Now, a study was recently done by ADB for what would be the situation in 2030 about water. So this figure shows that the current use of water is about 4,500 cubic kilometers, which is going to increase at the rate of about 2% going to go to about 6,900 cubic kilometers, and there will be a gap of about 40%. Now, the source of water is surface water and groundwater mainly, and there is a gap about 4,200 which is available to us, the accessible, but then there is a gap of 2,800 million cubic meters. Now, study indicates, this is a very recent study completed in October 2010, indicates that if we increase the supply, we would be able to meet 20% of this gap of 2,800. If we increase the productivity, another gain, the productivity gain could be about 20%. We are still left with 60% of the gap between demand and supply. And then on top of it, the climate change is going to aggravate this problem. So try to understand this point. Now, on top of it, the way the people are changing their diets. Just an example, that the meat consumption has increased by 100% time. It has doubled in many countries. And it will increase, the total demand of meat is going to increase tremendously. Now, if meat demand is going to increase, then the feed is going to increase. We would need more feed stocks for producing the required meat. So the dietary change would be one of the important aspects of the impact on the water resources going to be happen. Now, I try to also link it with the nutrition, the nourishment. Now, food and nourishment, we at global level, about 1 billion people are not having adequate food and nutrition. And to our surprise, 98% of them are in Asia. Almost 98%. And if you see Thailand, we have undernourishment of about 16% population. About 10 million people in Thailand are having not enough nutrition. Although we are top rice exporters. Same is the situation with malnutrition. Although this this figure is little old, but it says that we have malnutrition in Thailand about 8%. Food price is rising, and again linking it with the poor. The poor is spending about 50 to 60% of income on food. And what happens if price goes up? And we have seen it recently 2-3 times, that how the food prices has gone up and having impact on water resource, in fact. How do we really analyze those? It says that the rising food price have increased 44 million people into extreme poverty. Now, how do we really address those? If you look into energy, there are many countries where energy demand is growing at the rate of 9 to 10% per annum. Overall, most of the developing countries would increase their energy demand in next 20 years or so. About 44% increase is expected to happen. And we have about 1.5 billion people without electricity. 1/4 or 20% of the population having no electricity. Biofuel is an alternative, was discussed